After this official opening weekend of the top 3 with the side order on Sunday night, yes, I included that game back. The college football landscape has now been turned upside down and over and out, which leaves us having a few questions that need to be answered about a few programs that are possibly on the up and up, and maybe 1 or 2 programs that are a little bit overrated, or maybe there's one program whose coach is on the hot seat. Stay tuned to find out the answer to these and other questions on the inaugural 2025 edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all so much for joining us on this first edition, the first follow-up edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you're gabbing with the one and only Mr. CeeLo, and I hope you guys enjoyed the first week as I really did. There were some games that I really looked at and said, if this is gonna be anything like we anticipated coming out, this is going to be good. So, but without further ado, let us get into the comments of the previous show. And of course, I got to say what's up to my man Brad. And, got to do some talking about all of that. Talk about what was going down, what went down, and see if there was anybody besides Brad that jumped in the conversation. Right now, it's looking like no. What's up, brother? And you're very welcome, brother. We hope your family's doing great. And any of you, if you guys have something going down, we will definitely pray for you here at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. We love football, but we also love you guys as well. We always want you to be doing great. We want your support. We want your love. We love being able to talk football. So, yeah, we definitely want to be able to see you guys doing your best, especially with these trying times that are going down in this great country of ours. Yes, sir. Jenny is a bad man. I was with you on the South Florida Go Bulls. Absolutely. They're going to be a good challenge, and we'll talk about who they have in a couple of weeks. Love you too, man. He's calling you guys out. Brad calling y'all out, saying we just got to, we got to get y'all on here. Please put your input in. If you don't like what I say, please put it out there. Just don't be rude. No. When you play somebody, I will give you a gab out. Indy did. We didn't suck. We didn't play well, but that's something else. No, you don't. You're throwing up because you realize that you choked on that bone. That's what it is. That's why you got to throw up. No, actually, I don't drink anymore. I don't do that. And you got to have something to hate on. It's been a while since you been relevant, so them dogs ain't doing it. I don't trust Brian Kelly either. He gets talent, but he lost with him. Yeah. That people are gonna say he got over the hump with this one. Maybe this year, Little Bro State beats Big Brother Michigan. I certainly like what I saw, and Michigan's at a crossroads with the quarterback. I don't think Yeah, Jeremiah Love is still one of the best. He's still the best thing. He's the best thing in the country, and goodness, he'd win the Heisman if he was at UGA, because that would be the number one thing y'all would hand the ball off to. No Bama wins. Florida State will make it a game at the start with Gus Collin plays. Not yet cinnamon rolls. I I hate to say it, but you just about called that one. Malzahn did make that a game. I sure didn't see that coming. I had to throw that back into the Big Four because I was like, that's not going to be a game. And I totally forgot who their quarterback was, you guys. So you guys, please forgive me. That will be one time that I totally forgot. I knew about this kid at Boston College. Yeah, he was their everything last year. He was their offense. So, yeah, in truth, this guy was just a straight baller. And get through all of Brad's comment. LSU and Clemson is a coin flip, and you're right. He's got Clemson like I did, beating LSU like I think half the country did. I'm saying they're going to beat Texas because I don't think Texas ain't that good as everyone. And I mean, honestly, I thought that one was a coin flip too. I thought Texas's defense was going to be a lot better too. But that's, man, why you hating on the shirt, man? You know, that junk is the bomb. Don't hate on the shirt. Look at that. That is beautiful. But hope you guys are doing great. Let's get into the first game that lit it up. And, of course, that being the Ohio State 14-7 game. And, of course, I'm going to throw this in there. Brad already knows this. Ohio State's supposed to win this game. They just are. I don't care what anybody has to say. You can hate. You can say, oh, well, that's just the easy answer. No, it's not the easy answer. It's not easy to walk in somebody else's building and take them out. I don't care who you are. You can lay out all the framework that you want. You don't go up into somebody's house, especially when they have 100,000 strong. Anything over 70,000 is not easy to maneuver. Why do you think Saban didn't do it?
Run.
Yeah, got you. Arch Manning was 17 for 30, 170 yards, a score, and an interception. His counterpart, the true freshman Julian Sayin, 13 for 20, 126 yards, 1 touchdown, and no picks. However, if you look at it, Arch threw 10 passes fewer, and the completion percentage was 4 out of 10 more. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I was watching First Take this morning, and I totally agree. Or Weinbaum, I do agree somewhat with what Cam said. I don't completely agree with a lot of things Cam says, but I am going to agree with him in this sense. Too much was emphasized on Arch Manning. This needs to fall back on one, Steve Sarkisian. The truth of the matter is, Sark went into this game in a sense of, I don't want my quarterback to make a mistake. I don't want my quarterback to make mistakes here. When you also got to realize that Ohio State, much like Texas, was rebuilding their offensive line. If you look at how they ran the football, something that I looked at that really bothered me here. Look at this, 37 carries for 166 yards on the day. When you had C.J. Baxter had 10 carries, 40 yards. Quinn Wisner had 16 carries, 80 yards. And then even Arch Manning himself had 10 carries for 38 yards. I thought the Texas Longhorns were stalemated in this game until they opened up the Arch Manning run show. Then you had Ohio State kind of go, whoa. And it made all the difference in the world. Now, I am not going to say that Julian Sayin did not play well. I don't want to jump around too much, but I've only got a limited amount of time. And the reality of it is the Texas Longhorns, it wasn't so much about what the Texas Longhorns didn't do or what the Ohio State Buckeyes did do. I'm just going to say it was a balance of good football being played. On top of the fact that Sark restricted his quarterback. So, yeah, and I'm going to throw a bone out there to Matt Patricia because I did think he did an okay job mixing up coverages. I think the media is giving him far too much credit. I just think it was a situation where Steve Sarkisian made it easy for Matt Patricia. It was a situation where, once again, he was in the spotlight and he did not handle it well. He's going to have to trust his quarterback. And needless to say, this defense did an okay job. They held Jeremiah Smith to 6 catches for 43 yards, which arguably could have been a touchdown had Julian Sayin saw it and was not trying to take the check down. So there, Carnell Tate also made a touchdown grab that was arguably luck. A great concentration, but there was a lot of luck involved on that one. I'm just going to put it out there. Just Julian saying, just saying. So, but the running game for the Ohio State Buckeyes, I mean, can you believe a team that ran for 2.3 yards a carry won this game? They had 3 fewer carries and won this game.
Stop the cap.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you watch this game in its totality and its entirety, you feel like, when is Texas going to take this game and go with it? I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody's talking about this dominant Ohio State Buckeye defense. I didn't see that. I saw a team, look, you're looking at a team that had 32.5 minutes of the football, but Texas ran more plays, had more first downs, more third down conversions, and more total yards at almost 140 yards more. And they outran the Buckeyes by almost 100 yards. So before we go and just trample and say, oh, Ohio State is just this, and that. How many times do I tell you, you have to win those battles? Time of possession, they lost by 5 minutes, and that would be Texas lost by 5 minutes. The penalties, they had 6 penalties for 50 yards. But then you look at the total yards, whether it's passing or rushing, they won that battle. First downs. So it's not like Ohio State walked out the door with this game in their building. This was a case that had this game been reversed, and this game was played in Austin, and these numbers were the same, Texas wins this game.
Who cares?
And a lot of people are going to say, why? One.
So?
Home team means that much. Home field means that much. So when I sit there and I listen to Stephen A. and them talk about Ohio State's Ohio State, look, if Texas didn't do anything, they showed the world that Ohio State is not as good as they think they are.
What? That was pathetic.
Yes, they had a true freshman. Yes, they're rebuilding a lot of players. You're in your building. Enough said. Enough said. And this whole putting this on Arch, this is on Sark. Now, as far as the defense goes for Texas, it did take them a minute to get their footing. But it's not like Ohio State just marched down the field and just dominated this football game. The numbers don't reflect that. They just don't. Granted, there was a great play made, and I'm going to be honest with you. If Sark doesn't look at what Arch Manning threw into the end zone when Parker Livingston made that wonderful adjust to a touchdown that looked like was just going to be a disaster from the get-go, because he wasn't going to get there, because the defender for Ohio State did great in body control and he was able to get around him. Parker Livingston is a guy. Sark, newsflash, this guy is going to be dangerous inside the red zone. 6'4", 191 pounds. Oh, and by the way, freshman. Just want to throw that out there. As I said, I'm not as big on Ohio State as many of the other analysts on First Take were this morning. But let us get to another game that a lot of people were discussing, and that would be the Florida State Seminoles 31 and the Alabama Crimson Tide 17. Now, before people start sitting here calling for Kalen DeBoer's head, I'll go back to my point that I just made. Florida State this game was in Tallahassee. And I'm going to say it right now. We're sitting here talking about Nick Saban. Let me go ahead and tell you all something. Many of you are going to say you can't disrespect him. Oh, listen, I'm going to tell you right now. It's not about disrespect. It's about telling the truth. I went back and I did some research on this. Do you realize that he played one true non-conference road game since 2007, and that was back in 2010 when he played Penn State. All the rest of them were neutral site games. So before I start hearing Stephen A. Smith, Paul Feinbaum, or anybody going off saying that Kalen DeBoer is X, Y, and Z, you need to check with Saban and find out why he never played a true road game. It's because of situations like this. I was surprised that Alabama would walk in to an FSU knowing how many people were going to be at this thing and how many people were going to be screaming their flipping heads off at this football team. See, Saban never had a chance to show us what he could do. I'm just going to throw it out there. For everybody to sit there and say Saban wouldn't have done this, Saban wouldn't have done that, I don't know what he would have done. So please stop. There was 67,000 people screaming at Doak Campbell. And if you look at this game, the only numbers that jump out at me is the one turnover. But then, I'm sorry, my mistake. The 230 yards rushing to 80. Now, I'm sitting here listening to Stephen A. going off saying, you got pushed around. You're weak. You're this. You're that.
It's official. You suck.
Okay, let's do that. Tommy Castellano had 78 yards on the ground. You take his numbers away, you got 158 yards. Justifiable. But this dude was doing this out of the quarterback position. And I would challenge Stephen A. and I would challenge Paul Feinbaum to find out what teams give Nick Saban and Kirby Smart the most trouble. Quarterbacks like Tommy Castellanos. Now, I need to be slapped upside the head because I totally whiffed on remembering what this guy did at Boston College. And then I'm sitting here listening to Stephen A. go, he was at Boston College. He was at Boston College. The dude was terrific. This is why when you get guys who have been the number one option and the only option on certain teams, and you actually put a group of guys around them, they show up and show out. Because now they got a sense of a little bit of talent around them. You look at the guys that ran the football from Micah Danzy, who had 3 carries for 56 yards, almost a 19-yard average, had that touchdown run. Chroma had 7 carries, 31 yards. And I mean, really, it wasn't a total disaster for the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm sitting here listening to Stephen A. He's talking like, look, they carried the ball 49 times. Castellanos threw it 14 times. What are you talking about? And he basically burned you. That's what he did. He basically burned you to the point that's like, what do we do here? Jalen Lucas had 66 yards on 2 grabs and had a 64-yarder. It was one of the most beautifully drawn up plays I'd seen. Gus Malzahn put on a freaking clinic. Jalen Lucas was absolutely out there. The brother had 6 carries for 22 yards, and then, like I said, he had that big touchdown. And guys, I'm going to say it just like this. You got guys like Squirrel White. He had 1 grab for 40 yards. Deuce Robinson had 2 catches. Randy Pittman. It was just big plays in the passing game. And then what does that set you up for? You got to make sure you keep an eye on this little bitty thing named Castellanos.
Run.
And if you don't, what's going to happen? He going to burn you. He going to burn you. And I'm sick and tired of hearing people like Stephen A. who probably didn't even watch the damn game. You sitting there talking about Alabama this, Alabama that. Jeremy Bernard had 8 catches for 146 yards. Outside of that, Ryan Williams was a no-show. And that ain't no disrespect to him. By the way, we hope he's okay. But there was a guy out there that is absolutely nasty. Ashlyn Barker, number 27. That brother was all over the field. I don't know if any of y'all watched it. Brad, if you watched it, hit me up. Barker is a hitter. And I don't want to hear this whole talk about DeBoer can't turn it around. DeBoer can't turn it around. Listen. He's got a young quarterback. I'm tired of hearing people in Alabama sitting here saying he ain't that dude. First of all, Ty Simpson shouldn't have thrown that ball 43 times.
Stupid.
Ain't no sense in it. And then Ty Simpson didn't help him either. I find it funny we sitting here trying to shoulder blame with C.J. Carr, Julian Sand, Arch Manning, but we ain't talking about Ty Simpson. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Ty Simpson had a lot of balls that skipped the guys, didn't hit guys. Just saying. And feeding back to that Texas game, Arch Manning missed their fastest player on a couple of runs across the middle. Twice he threw it behind him. So I will say I give him some criticism for that. But then Tommy Castellanos is absolutely brilliant. The guy had over 200 all-purpose yards and was just absolutely darting the balls that he actually threw. And Alabama had no answer for his mobility. Basically, in a nutshell, and I don't like what Stephen A. said, that he called his mark and he punked the Crimson Tide. No, he didn't. He took care of business in his building. He took care of business, and the Seminoles took care of business at home. Now, there's a lot of people saying, oh, they should be ranked. I don't know about that yet. Do I think Castellanos and the Seminoles have a chance to be the Hurricanes of 2025? Absolutely. What you think, Brad? I'm being for real. I'm going to stick by it. But I think Kalen DeBoer can get this thing turned around. And I basically, in a nutshell, disagree with Stephen A. And I disagree with Paul Feinbaum calling this brother out, saying that they got punked. See, you're talking about they need to be called out. No, what you need to do is figure out how come this brother did something Saban only did once in almost 2 decades. Play a quality opponent on the road. And I know what you're going to say. How you know he's a quality opponent? We don't. But we do know FSU has a tradition of being a tough place to win at. Kalen DeBoer took the challenge.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers? You can't handle the truth.
31-17, Florida State. I think ultimately this needs to be a game that Kalen DeBoer puts behind him. I think he will, and I think this Alabama team will recover. I think they'll come back, and they will be they will be on a roll. Don't forget I said it. Brad, don't forget I said it. Next, we go to the 17-10 victory, LSU victory over the Clemson Tigers on the road. Now, I will tell you something. This is an impressive football game. A win for Brian Kelly and his bunch. Yeah, a very impressive win. I don't think I like, because listen, Booger McFarland, shut up with the whole fate Death Valley, okay? Because the reality of it is you can't even figure out what passing coverages are. You supposed to know passing coverage. You out there talking about if a corner and a safety are over the top and underneath, the quarterback knows to throw it up. Anyway, 17-10, the Tigers look like, Clemson that is, the tail of the Tigers. Cade Klubnik did not look comfortable all night, and that's a tribute to LSU's pass rush. Now, it's not a 4-man pass rush. LSU was mixing up coverages all night. They had them straight confused. When you look at this game, it's a tale to me of decisions. As we look at, we're starting to see more of a tradition now of 4th down conversions. We saw Clemson go 2 of 4 on 4th down in this game. So when you start to analyze where this game was lost, I know there was a controversial call, but you as Clemson, a team that looked to be the favorites, when you come into this game and LSU turns the ball over twice, you turn it over once, and on a defense that's supposed to be one of the best, you give up 300 on paper, that is, you give up 354 yards and 101 yards rushing. And I'll be honest with you, I get it. I saw some things out of LSU that I didn't think I would see. They're very adamant. I think they were more hyper than the Hurricanes were. I do think this team could be a problem. And I do think that maybe myself and a couple of others overrated the daggum Tigers. I mean, maybe they were slated in the right spot. Maybe we can go back and think the same for Penn State, but it is the first game. Listen, when you play the first game, you either got to be the aggressor, or you're going to have to be extra good to be conservative and win. And Clemson was so daggum conservative. Look at this. They doubled up the first downs on Clemson, 25-13. Are you kidding me? And then the strength of this Clemson team is supposed to be the passing game. LSU completed 10 more passes. And then you look here, penalties were even. But the time of possession, the LSU Tigers owned this game. Absolutely owned it. But here's the scary part. Clemson was still in it. They were still in it. I'm going to be honest with you. You can look at the statistics and you can see that LSU was doing its thing, but they can sit here and call this the fake Death Valley if they want to. You look at how this game was run. They should not have won this game by 7 points. This is why I tell y'all, it's so darn tough to win in somebody else's building. And I sit here and I listen to these P-brains on these telecasts say, oh, well, yeah, you should be able to go in there and do your thing. No, it's tough to try to get acclimated to another building and get your and inflict your will on somebody else. But when you can hold the opposition in their building to 31 total yards rushing, and you run for over 100, that's got all the marks of a victory. But then when you look at this and you say you only won by 7, you just got to look at the 2 fumbles that they lost. I mean, everything else is impressive nonetheless. But then you also got to look at the fact that we had 2 turnovers in this game that we got to clean up. This easily could have went the other way for LSU. But then you look at this game and it's impressive enough. It's kind of like the next game that we're going to talk about. But Cade Klubnik did not look comfortable. That offensive line looked shaky. The experienced line. But I got to give most of the credit to LSU because they brought a lot of different packages. They kept Cade Klubnik guessing. And that's what you do with an experienced quarterback. You keep him guessing. And they ended up with 2 sacks from Harold Perkins and P.J. Woodland. When you can get different guys like Woodland, who's a corner, making sacks and creating that kind of pressure and that kind of confusion, it makes it even more difficult to be able to do what you want. And I thought at the end of the day, Dabo and his offensive coordinator should have got together and said, look, there's going to be a couple of plays on 3rd down that we just have to sell out and say, okay, this linebacker in this corner, if they're coming, we need to run past them. We're going to have to run past them. And something that I was really concerned that I did not see with Klubnik, and I'm sure they'll clean this up, is we didn't see a lot of design runs with Cade Klubnik, which is something that we talked about. We saw a lot of last season. And the reality of it is they've got to put that in there. Klubnik can move, and they need to move the pocket with those type of blitzes that LSU was bringing at them. I did not see a lot of that. That coupled with the fact that they were using a lot of run blitzes. Klubnik's a seasoned vet, and he should be able to see that. That's something that's got to be cleaned up. Congratulations to the Tigers and Brian Kelly for finally getting his first opening day win as a LSU Tiger coach. But to me, this was a game they should have ran away with, and they did not. So, you can talk about fate, Death Valley all you want to. You escaped. 17-10. I imagine the Tigers will fly up the polls, given they were able to win on the road, and rightfully so. And the final game on this slate is going to be the Hurricanes 27 and the Fighting Irish 24. This game was more about Mario Cristobal doing a phenomenal job of keeping everything tight-lipped. He was able to keep arguably the best player in this game. I say basically because he was the guy that put Miami over the top. I say he was the best player of the night, and that's Malachi Toney. This was a dude who, if he wasn't making big plays, he was a guy that was moving the chains for the Hurricanes. And before the Irish were able to get a handle on this, because once they put Leonard Moore on him in man coverage, it was a wrap. This offense really stagnated, and I think they just gave the blueprint of how this team wants to win. I'm not really sold on what this Hurricanes team is going to do, but that's for a later date. Carson Beck was okay. I got tired of hearing Paul Weinbaum say, "Oh, I think he's back," blah 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 blah. And look, after this guy got shut down, it was all she wrote. Once the Irish figured out Tony was the guy he wanted to look for, it got But I will say Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown are two bruising backs, and this offensive line, tackle to tackle, is the real deal running the football. They're not going to run outside. They're going to run right at you. They'll have some design plays where they run outside, but very few. They want to run right at you. And Notre Dame had to adjust. They ended up with 15 carries for 120 yards even. You look at it, they had 120 of the 127 yards as a team. So Cristobal's doing what he wants to do, which is run the football. On the flip side, the Irish saw C.J. Carr come out in his debut. I'm not going to give a whole lot of details. If you want to see what my overall analysis of this game from the Irish standpoint, go to my channel, Talk Like a Champion, and you'll see my whole follow-up on that. But as I said, Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love were held pretty much in check. Look, Jadarian Price came into the game, and he had a 30-yarder, which I thought where they started to pull some guards around and started to get guys in double-team situations. There were 2 times Price broke free, and one of them was for 30 yards, and I think the other one was for like 8 or 9 yards. And every single game like this one, the big one, Jadarian Price always has a defining a run. So you look at this game and you say to yourself, okay, who benefits the most from this? And what really gets me is people are saying that the Hurricanes are back. I'm not sold on that yet. I am impressed with their offense and their defensive line, who is marvelous. They closed out the game with 2 sacks. Reuben Baines Jr. is going to be a first-round pick, and everybody's going to say, oh, that's because he beat up on your line. Don't mean, no. This dude was wrecking stuff all night. I mean, we literally had to game plan for this guy. The 6'3", 275 pounds, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's a monster. When you look at him on the field, he is an absolute monster. 6'3", 275 pounds. But I'm going to go ahead and say it like this. Miami still ain't fixed that secondary. Because when C.J. Carr rolled out, he had 2 guys open in the end zone for a touchdown. And then once again, we saw busted coverages on one of Eli Raridan's deep throws. Now, granted, Carr made a great move and scanned the field, and there he was. But those are the kind of busted coverages that cost the Hurricanes last season. And I see that hasn't changed. And if I blame a lot of Notre Dame's loss on Mike Denbrock. He coached the game not to lose, and they lost. There was a deep throw that Carr was going after with Malachi Fields that was beautiful. And it went for 26. It was basically a go get it. 6'4", why not? And then something else that's got to happen. Eli Raridan, 6'7". What are you doing? He did end up with 5 catches, 97 yards, and that long 65-yarder snoozer that the Hurricanes whiffed on. But overall, Malachi Tony had 6 for 82 and a touchdown. Now, he is a freshman. But I also suggest all of you go back to the highlights and look up that C.J. Daniels grab, because if you look at it closely, that ball was going into the hands of Adon Shuler. So, while it was a great catch, it could have been GOAT Town for Carson Beck. So this was a game that was basically on the fingertips of C.J. Daniels, even though that catch was late in the second quarter. But I don't see the Hurricanes doing what everybody thinks they're going to do. They've got Florida State this year, so needless to say, the Hurricanes have a very, very good opportunity to be able to prove it. Now, I didn't hear Cam Newton. Cam Newton was disrespectful when he said they got Bethune, South Florida, then they get a test. South Florida's going to be a test. What you think, Brad? What you think, Nate? Then after that, they've got Florida Florida State and Louisville. Then they play Stanford, and then they have SMU. And they close the season at Pitt. This Miami's got to go to Tallahassee, the same team that beat Alabama. Y'all comment below what you think. This is going to be a month. I got Florida State already.
What?
Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you leave your name down in the comments if you are a first-time subscriber or a first-time watcher. Make sure you comment below. Tell me what you agree with and what you disagree with. I know you got me, Brad. Make sure you go to the Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Join the group as well as join the Facebook page. Finally, go to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can catch up with all the in-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, same Gab channel, same Gab platform.